Well, thank you guys very much for having us. So, I'm Joel, and this is Nick, and we are Smoke Barrel. So to start off, how many wine drinkers do we have in the audience tonight? A lot of wine drinkers. So I think you guys are going to like what we have to offer. So what we do is we repurpose old wine barrels out of the Okanagan and reclaim them into fully functioning gourmet food smokers that you can use on your deck, on your patio, or when you have guests over. And so before we get started, we'd like to show you a quick video on what we do. Video's on.
So for the team, we have from right to left, Brent Cadler, who's in the audience tonight. He's got extensive experience in project management. He's been crucial in helping us turn ideas into a reality and kind of just taking it to the next step. Next, we have myself, Nick White. I come from a retail background, and I'm using that to help push us into retailers and drive sales. Next, we have Joel Jelinski, just finished his engineering degree, and he helps with product development and coming up with new ideas. At the very end, we have Zach Hartley. He's the founder of Smoke Barrel. Unfortunately, he isn't able to be here tonight because he is away on a business trip, but he did come up with the original idea. So with that being said, I'll lead into how it all started. So the very first smoker. So Zach's family has a cabin out in the Okanagan. They were going out there every single summer, and he always saw these old wine barrels and figured, there has to be something that we can do with these. Purchased one of them and found a video on YouTube, and basically it was a guy that had made a very basic version of what we do now, and he took it, enhanced it, and basically Smoke Barrel was born. He took 5 barrels back to Calgary, turned them into the food smokers, created an Instagram page, and we got a following from a guy at CTV. From there, they did a story on us, and we sold all 5 barrels that week, and from there, we started the company. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to come out with a smoker that isn't your conventional smoker. So here we have the basic one. This is a basic, tin can type smoker. Retails for roughly $200 to $800, isn't very attractive, of course serves a great purpose, doesn't look that great on your patio. Next, we have the Big Green Egg. At Barbecues Galore, that retails for $1,820. Now, again, another nice instrument, but not the nicest looking. Functions well, but it's both a barbecue and smoker, so it doesn't have the functionalities that you would want in just a smoker. Where we come in is we fit right between the price range. We have an attractive product that is just a smoker. It can do cold and hot smoking. We have a trap door in the bottom for the charcoal, so it's much easier to access than the Big Green Egg. And at the same time, we have a digital thermometer that helps to track the temperature not only inside the barrel, but of your meat as well. That'll send a notification directly to your cell phone when it's ready. So they look great on a patio. As I said before, much more attractive than your typical tin can type smoker. We're the only customizable smoker on the market. We can do both wine and whiskey barrels, as well as custom engravings, as you see here that we did for Alexander Keys. We can also do different color stains, clear coat varnish, gold hardware, silver hardware, and just about anything to really personalize it to fit the consumer's needs. So this here is an example of one that we have done ribs in. Not only does it look great and serve a great purpose, but it makes some amazing food. You get a nice thing that we like to call the barrel effect. So basically what that means is that you get a really nice flavor that comes from the wine actually inside the barrel on top of the flavor that you get from actually smoking.
Awesome, thank you, Nick. So before we wanted to approach our Hong Kong business idea here, is we wanted to have a proof of concept here in Canada and the US. So to do that, we first have to quantify our market size. And so there are 130 million households in both Canada and the US, and on average, 72% of those own a barbecue. Out of the 72% that own a barbecue, 15% also own additional smokers on top of that. And 45% of those people plan on purchasing a new smoker in the next year. And that stat really hit home with Nick and I. That's a huge number. And so that equates to a market size based on the average retail price of the smoker being $500 of around $3 billion just in Canada and the US. And so how do we sell our smoke barrels? So right now what we do is we have our online store. And so that's the homepage of the online store there. And so that's smokebarrel.ca. And so the customer can go on, we have a full e-commerce ready site, and they can choose, as Nick mentioned, all of our customization options, and that, again, is what makes us unique as a company. All right, second is we have strategic partnerships with retailers, restaurants, and wineries here in Alberta and BC. And to give you a specific example, recently we had Big T's Barbecue here in Calgary. They purchased a couple smokers from us for a draw, and they had the customers enter the draw to win the smoker. And so what we did with Big T's is there was about 800 entries in the first week there. So they had a lot of really good response for that. We took all of those, put them in a database for both Big T and us to use. And that way we can really quantify our market size as well, get in touch with who we're dealing with exactly. And we've also worked with Big Rock Grill. We actually customized one of their old beer barrels, as well as we're starting to work with some chefs actually from Italy and France with wine import companies. They're bringing them in to work with the local herbs and cuisine around each areas of the winery with our smoke barrel. And why they're doing that is because when the smoke barrel heats up, the wine flavor is actually released out of the wood, so it actually has a unique character to your foods, and that's something that can't be found in any other smoker. Finally, we have our festivals and events. So we're doing the Calgary Stampede this year, so that's very exciting for us. We're looking forward to that. We're doing the Calgary Rib Fest, as well as Barbecue on the Bow, and we also do a couple wine and food shows here in Calgary and Edmonton. And so, what are we selling? I think that's a big question that everyone's wondering, right? So we started our company in September 2015, and between September and December, we sold 21 wine barrels, and that equates to a revenue just over $31,000. And so we are a brand new company. We're incorporated across Canada, and we want to move forward. And so what does that look like for us? So next year, we made our goal to sell 100 barrels. And in 2017, what we want to do with the help of you into Hong Kong is we want to sell 300 and then upwards of 1,000 barrels over the next couple of years. And so that's where the Asia trends really excite us. And so the graph here shows that just in China alone, the wine consumption has increased 650% over the last 9 years, and that's a staggering number. Nick and I, we also did a little extra research, and we found that China consumes 11.2 million hectoliters of wine each year, and that is about 4 times of Canada. So that's really promising moving forward here. And so what does Hong Kong offer us, and how do we want to take advantage of those, the different opportunities there? Hong Kong is widely regarded as the wine distribution hub of Asia. And so that's important for us because if wine's coming in and out of Hong Kong, we really want to be right in the heart of that because the wine is the core value of our products. Hong Kong, as mentioned before, is the Asian lifestyle trendsetter. And a couple of our great speakers this morning also touched on these core trends that are emerging. It's the art and culture, the nostalgia, as well as the food and beverage trend. And we found that our smoke barrel relates very closely to all those 3 trends that are emerging. So that's very encouraging, hearing that from the speakers this morning as well. So how do we plan to really integrate this into the Asian market space, specifically in Hong Kong? We want to keep it local. That's important to us. We've proven our business model here in Alberta because we've used local manufacturers, local wine barrels. We want to use wine barrels from the local Hong Kong wineries to capitalize on their market. We want to make products and tailor it to them because that's important to us, is creating that brand around the region that we're in. And so another thing that we're capitalizing on is the consumer experience. And that's something that's, we really regard, is that we're not selling just a product, we're selling a culture. We're the bridge between the wine and the process. And that connection is what really excites us. And so what we're doing is we're constantly developing products to make that connection happen, like our blends of wood chips. So the wood chips is we use we chip up wine barrels. We actually can use local herbs and spices grown at the wineries, blend them with the woods, and when you use those wood chips on the barbecue, you get that unique wine flavor of the local winery. And that's very important to us, again, to capitalize in Hong Kong on their wine culture. And so, yeah, we'd love to open up to any questions. Thank you guys very much.
Hello. Hi. So I love the presentation, quite beautiful, and love wine, love barbecue. One thing that I wanted to mention is, especially towards the end, you're talking about going into Hong Kong and how they're big wine drinkers. It's definitely the case. I'm not 100% sure if there's a lot of local Hong Kong one. I know from personal experience they really enjoy imports, for one. But two is spacing issues. So although here in Canada, I have a barbecue and if I could probably get the smoker, I would probably get it. But in Hong Kong, I don't know if I could even fit, a dress I have to hang dry out my, I don't know if it's a balcony, but whatever that little space is. So, I'm not sure how you're going to enter the China, Hong Kong market in that, especially Hong Kong.
Yeah, so how we plan to alleviate that, that's a great question, and then Nick and I, we talked about that earlier, is that's where the strategic partnerships with the restaurants, the companies come into play, right? Is that fine dining cuisine is very important, and that's where we want to put a smoke rail in those restaurants, right? We want to offer that as a unique feature for the restaurant, and they can build their marketing campaign around that.
It's a beautiful product.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing you may want to look a little bit closer to, instead of just the wine consumption in Hong Kong, but actually would be the barbecue and food taste for the Hong Kong market or the Asian market as a whole. People love food, and I think you can start with marketing some of your smoke barrel to some restaurant. I don't know how that may fit into an indoor restaurant. It may have to be an outdoor restaurant that may be interested in smoked food. So you may want to develop certain cuisine together with them as a marketing campaign. But interestingly enough, the wood chips part can be extended more once you build your image to be able to sell that to other households, because people in Hong Kong as well as Asia love barbecue, and it may not be at their home that they are doing barbecue, but they may be doing barbecue outside. So once you build the blend, that can be an extended product that you will be able to sell.
That's some excellent feedback, thank you.
I do love the wood chips. I use them myself. I just want to point out clarification. You were mentioning your price point. It's what, $1,500 to $1,750?
Roughly, depending on customization options.
Okay, but then I saw on one of your slides you're driving numbers off a retail price of $500.
We were using that because that's the industry standard for a smoker. That's not our standard for our pricing.
Okay.
That's just your baseline smoker.
Yeah, because that's something I work with distributors from Big Green Egg in Quebec, and I know there's two models. Like, yeah, you hit the one you presented is for the expensive large one, but there's also Big Green Egg and Komodo. They go for about $300 to $800. So I'm thinking that you might want to consider competing with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing about the comparison to us and the Big Green Egg is that they're both a barbecue and a smoker. Now, from a barbecue standpoint, very functional. From a smoker standpoint, not as functional. It's very difficult to use. Now, the charcoal tray sits in the bottom. You have to pull all the racks out and such just to get to that to do your smoking, which is quite inconvenient, especially if you're doing a smoke that's going to last like 12 hours. I personally don't want to have to go out and pull out these hot trays, and find a place to set them down without burning my patio, et cetera, just to, smoke some food. And I think that's where we have a strong competitive advantage over them.
Great, thank you.
And just to add on that as well is that we didn't really touch on this in the presentation, but what our smoker offers is that we are a hot and cold smoker. And so that's something that Green Egg doesn't offer. And so cold smoking is something that's really trending right now, and it's just starting to catch on. And so that could be between vegetables, salmon, cheeses, right? So it's not that heavy American beef brisket, right? But you bring that over to the Asian market. You can do the salmon as the vegetables and infuse that all into their cultural foods. And that's something that we're excited about when we're pitching here, is because that application is a lot stronger overseas.
So can you guys go to your revenue slide for a bit then? Because you sound really excited. You've got this amazing market size. But what did you tell me your Aussie revenues were going to be in 3 years?
Let's take a look. Yeah, so let's go 2018, it's 780,000.
Yeah, so that's doesn't really move the needle for an investor. That means you two guys get to buy a nice car or something, right? You get a salary.
Fair enough.
Can you do better?
We can do better. And what we're doing here is we don't want, again, to put any fluff out there, right? We want to say, this is what we know we can do with the right strategic partners. Like you're saying, you can have the fancy car too.
So how many, like, if left to your own devices, how many of these things can you guys crank out in a month?
Currently, from our current subcontractors, we could do probably about 10 in a month. Now, of course, we can expand and look at outsourcing manufacturing, but we need to have a larger demand to be able to do so.
And then do you have the margin to be able to scale manufacturing?
Currently, we have a 45% margin, but again, as we start bringing in more sales, we can get the cost down because we can start purchasing in wholesale and lower our cost overall.
So as you guys get going, it would be probably just something as an investor in year 3. That would be nice if that number was about 1.6 in 2000 and tell you what, I'm feeling nice today. So I'll give you the 2018. So you gotta double your sales, like, to get interesting. How's that?
Yeah, no, and I think that that's something we can do too. And because we are so new, we've been 6 months in operation, and we find that we were the smoker season's the summer season. We haven't operated during a summer season yet, right? So we're basing our projections off the winter sales, right? And so, you know, we can blow these out of the water tomorrow. And like with Calgary Stampede coming up, the traffic through there, it's gonna be unbelievable. And we're very excited, but again, we didn't want to feed you anything that we know we didn't. We can't accomplish this, right? But where can we take it?
So just so you know, we did the opposite. Like, let's not give them too much, so let's just put cold water on it. So, like, I was very Canadian. Just do more.
Fair enough, fair enough. Born and raised.
Thank you for the presentation. Obviously, very nice for Canada. I'd like to follow up on Shirley's comment on Hong Kong. The Hong Kong culture is a bit different. A lot of the barbecuing in Hong Kong is do it yourself in groups. And there is also pits in Hong Kong that supply restaurants for a very specific type of product. The barbecue duck, the smoked pork, and things like that. It's not a retail to the home market at all. And there may be a couple of specialty restaurants, but it's a very different culture. So perhaps you like to retain your strategy for Hong Kong as a base to enter other markets in the region. Hong Kong may be a very different market than what you're used to. But it will be helpful for you to study that. It's a good niche product, but the strategy may be very different from what you're thinking.
Well, and I think that's something that we're finding here too, right? Because, you know, you look at the American culture and this fits right in, right? And when we go over to Hong Kong and Asia, you know, the rest of Asia is where we're really, you know, pitching this to, right? It's not specifically Hong Kong, it's the Asian culture, and we know that our barrel will fit into that. I was recently over in Singapore and was walking around the streets, and they have, you know, barrels all over the place there, all downtown, and it really hit home to me that this is something that could stick over there. And so, you know, there are going to be challenges, but that we're ready to embrace that. We've proven our concept here, and we're ready to prove it overseas.
So, Jordan, on the presentation, I really like the product. I'm sold myself in Calgary. Going back to Hong Kong, we all comment that the issues that we face. And one suggestion is myself has also a partner in Hong Kong, so I understand that we will be putting something in there. But there's a market that we can steadily put on. It's more high-end restaurant or people that is more wealthy. Getting one of these hosting a party at home is something that they would like to do for sure. And the other things that is import, there's no winery in Hong Kong as far as I know. So something import, people in Hong Kong will love it. And you can always price this as a premium. I know that you're selling like $1,500 in Canada, but definitely something like this, people in Hong Kong, in the wealthier market, will be willing to pay more than that.
Thank you very much. Great job, guys. Our final two presenters today.